That wasn't live. Welcome in to another Jordy Culotta Show live here from Atlanta at SEC Media Days here on this Wednesday edition with another loaded schedule here over from the College Football Hall of Fame. We'll get you set up for it. Appreciate you starting your Wednesday here with us. Make sure you hit that like button, share button, comment button. As always, we're brought to you by our friends over at Go Chevrolet, Geaux Chevrolet.com. Remember, Go Chevrolet is online. Best way to search the inventory. They got used cars over in Baton Rouge at Go Express Auto Sales, Florida Boulevard, and Sherwood Forest. Happy customer Lloyd Courtney just went through the process. Very easy with Nick Richard and the crew over there. Online, Geaux Chevrolet.com. And, of course, the brand new car lot is down there in Laplace, Louisiana, which you can stop just conveniently off I-10 and shop the lot over there at Go Chevrolet, as they are ready for you down there in Laplace or in Baton Rouge. Live here again on a Wednesday here from Atlanta, going into another day in which the schedule will feature the champs. The champs are here. Georgia and Kirby Smart will be here at 10:30 this morning. Stetson Bennett, Nolan Smith, and Louisiana's own offensive lineman Cedric Van Pran, the starting center for the Dogs out of Warren Easton High School. Remember, LSU has had a Harvard transfer snapping the ball over the last two seasons on LSU's offensive line. Meanwhile, Cedric Van Pran is going into his second year as the starting center for the Georgia Bulldogs. And we will talk to Ced today, who's got the all. He's probably on one of the all-name teams. Great name and a player. Will be here at 10:30 this morning. Arkansas is going to start the day off. Sam Pittman's going to be here. We'll get a first look at quarterback KJ Jefferson. Can't wait to see Jefferson. As big as Jefferson is and to be he's got like Jamarcus type size. It was incredible how small Bryce Young was standing next to him yesterday, and just getting a just kind of aspect of Bryce Young, just seeing him up close is, it was incredible how small he was. Today we'll also feature Kentucky. Mark Stoops, Will Levis will be here, Florida, and Billy Napier, as we are looking forward to that conversation coming up here at 11 a.m. this morning, as Napier making his first trip to the SEC Media Days here, and it will be interesting to catch up with him here from Atlanta. So appreciate everybody starting their day here. Make sure you hit that like button, share button, comment button, as we are live here yet again. And yesterday's storylines were centered around Nick Saban and Saban in Alabama. We're here as Bryce Young and Will Anderson, obviously, as we talked about, were really featured for Alabama. And it was interesting to hear Saban speaking on everything like conference expansion, NIL, and everything that's affecting college football right now. Stewie, are we good?
Yeah, we're good. We good.
Yeah, we got a good audio. Your picture's cut like a little choppy. Oh, you're good. We're good now.
Yeah,
we're good now.
You look great.
Everything good?
Yeah, we just caught up. It was just buffered a little bit. Audio's great, but the video call was a little jumpy, but you're good now. People waking up, hopping on the Wi-Fi. You're good.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So we will, again, the schedule over here being that we're an hour ahead. It's 8 a.m. over here in Atlanta, and Sam Pittman will start at 9 a.m. So we'll squeeze as much as we can into this hour, and then we'll send back content throughout the day. We'll get a lot of these, just kind of like phone booth interviews of people kind of walking past that we're kind of picking up and asking questions. And the Paul Feinbaum stop yesterday really kind of set the social media, the Culotta Show social media on fire. And Feinbaum, I had a chance to talk to him earlier this week when before before Kelly was introduced, and then obviously yesterday in the hall when we stopped and talked a little bit and was able to record some of it and send it back to Noah and the social media team that got it up and got it out there. That has been his message the whole time. Like, he was, even on Monday before Kelly was speaking, he was telling me how impressed he was with just the hire. Scott Woodward going out and getting Brian Kelly, and how much it was kind of a surprise out of left field. The name kind of came out of left field. B.J. Ojulari was even talking about it when he was here on Monday, that, a lot of people in the locker room were talking about the guys that they wanted. Everybody was floating names out there. And then when Brian Kelly was announced, people were like, well, damn, I didn't even think about him. That was a name that was really kind of off the board, even in the locker room and even for the players. So, Feinbaum was saying that Monday. Like, it was impressed by Woodward to go out and get a guy like Kelly and to bring him in and give him the resources and, put him at a program like LSU that, gives him an opportunity to win almost immediately. And if you saw Chris Doering yesterday morning on SEC Now, a lot of what I was trying to tell you that people were saying from this event, Doering just got on the air yesterday morning and said it. He said, look, I think I kind of been wrong about LSU. He was like, I had to kind of check myself on LSU because, I was looking at what the roster looked like after the bowl. I was looking at all the adversity the program was dealing with, seeing all the turnover from the staff that Brian Kelly had to replace. But now having a chance to listen to Kelly speak, and, people, this is really the first time when even the regional media and the local media to the markets really kind of dive in and start to do your homework. I mean, sure, we've kind of been kept up on LSU, but I mean, the more you have, these media guides in your hand, and the more that you have access to all this information, there is downtime where you can just sit around and learn about teams. And as the schedules come out, like, I'm learning about Arkansas today, learning more about Will Levis coming back for his senior season at Kentucky, and anxious to hear what Mark Stoops will have to say on his quarterback. Learned about Mike Leach and Mississippi State yesterday. So you're starting to learn more about these teams, just kind of being around it and just being around the subjects. So it's people are, you can hear it, man. You can sense it. Like I said, I mean, even Doering got on the cameras yesterday and just put it out there. It was like, look, I mean, LSU potentially could finish second in the West, and I can't wait to see what the pre-poll, the preseason voting results prove that come out tomorrow. Comes out on the last day of the event. They send out, the ballot before we arrive. You got a chance to vote online. I put my votes in.
LSU number one.
Yeah, right. But I mean, I am anxious to see where
they fall.
LSU stacks up after, because a lot of people wait for this event and like kind of make their plays tomorrow morning. I think the deadline's like 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. They'll have all the votes tallied by the time that Texas A&M finishes up the event tomorrow afternoon. So you got a little time to kind of go through this, meet people, listen to what coaches have to say, listen to what players have to say, and then kind of make your vote. And that like I've said, the sentiment around LSU was maybe Monday morning a little bit of an eye roll of, I guess LSU is going to start us off today. And by the time they finished up, they were like, people were like, damn, LSU's pretty impressive, in the sense of Brian Kelly's representing them from the head coaching standpoint. All three guys that they had over here were, showed some personality and gave a lot of information as far as who LSU was. Nothing that could be bulletin board material or anything that you're giving away through, sound bites. But, one thing that Brian Kelly did say yesterday that Jock put out on his Twitter, at Jock Doucet from WAFB, was Brian Kelly remarked about what LSU looked like versus UCLA last season, and said that was a tired football team and that LSU wasn't going to be tired in the opener against Florida State because of the way that they're off-season training, the way that they are going through, this summer. And Mike Jones said that in one of his sound bites that's kind of starting to, gain some legs and run from SEC Media Days, is that, Jones said, look, all these big-time college programs are doing it a lot of the same, right? Where you've got resources put into the nutrition department, into the weight program, into the recruiting staff, into the facilities, into everything that goes into the perks of being a high level Division I football player. He said, but he believes that LSU's standing out and being a little different in the way that they're doing their off-season training, the way that Jake Flint and his staff have become, they approach it with such a scientific approach in the sense of, that there's a lot of data analysis, there's a lot of data gaining, where you're learning about your body and you're learning how to maximize what's coming out of it. And I thought it was. Man, I want to make sure I get it right. I believe it was Seven Banks, the defensive back, who said, when we asked him about the nutrition part of it, he said, look, whatever you put in, it's going to come out of your body. And there's so much more emphasis being put on that part of just being a college football player. But, one of the things that Mike Jones said separates, he believes, LSU from not the entire pack, but the majority of the pack, who everybody's similar, doing it very similarly, is that the way that they're doing their off-season training. And it'll be something to look out for. It'll be interesting to see the way that LSU starts the season compared to the way that they did over the past couple. And look, I love Tommy Moffitt, man. Really and truly. I hated the way that it ended for Moffitt, because Moffitt he's been almost like a face of not just LSU football, but almost like the institution over the last 20 years. I mean, he was recognized with LSU. I wish that there was that he would have been maybe able to do Olympic sports and not just, maybe not football, but it worked out like it worked out at the end. But, there was a lot of love for Tommy Moffitt on the way out, and there's still a lot of respect for what he accomplished. But look, man, 20 years in any profession is a long time.
For the same squad.
20 years in college football is an eternity. That's a couple of lives when you're talking about that sport and just the pressure of it. So, I can buy in easily that it was time for a change. But it is cool to hear that the ways that LSU is doing it is very differently, and it's seemingly getting the best out of the players here early on. Check out the promo code, the QR code at the top right of your screen there. If you're watching us live here on the Jordy Culotta Show, if you're catching it a little later in the day on demand, it's all good. You can still walk your phone up to that QR code. That'll walk you into Caesars Sportsbook, where you can check out the promo code FM15, the letter F, the letter M15, where you can risk up to $1,500 risk-free in bets over at Caesars Sportsbook. Check it out now. Use that QR code that you see at the top right of the screen. That'll be the promo code FM15. A lot of future bets that are taking place. Last night, the All-Star game was happening here. We were kind of bouncing around, and one of the cool things about I love this event more than anything for the networking of it. What we have tried to separate ourselves and what we're doing is by the guests that we bring on to give knowledge in certain areas. If you're looking for knowledge on Georgia, if you're looking for knowledge on Florida, if you're looking for knowledge on, just in particular teams, you always want to go and try to find the bests of who's covering them, right? The Shea Dixons, the people that are really kind of embedded in the team and really have the relationships and really understand, kind of how the program operates. And all of those people are here in one hotel, in one ballroom, in one, after like a bar last night, just kind of a hotel bar, all kind of just kind of cutting it up and talking and, going back and forth on tactics and the way that their market works. And it has been real cool to really get down on the ground level and start to form those relationships, and not form them because we've been here so many times, but we haven't been here over the last couple of years, whether it was COVID or last year. We just had a day pass when LSU was featured, and actually LSU was featured on the first day like they were this season. But we were just in there really for the 3 hours that Ogeron, Stingley, and Deculus were featured. And then after that, we got back in the car and headed back to Baton Rouge. When you're able to spend an extended amount of time here, you can, really sit down, talk to people about what's going on in their market, ways that they are improving their product, gives you an idea to kind of get behind the scenes on some production stuff and really kind of get down to how you can improve your product. And moreover, it's just about, networking. I mean, really more than anything. I mean, it just gives you an opportunity to build your base. I mean, build the resources that we have, trying to bring you the cutting edge content that hopefully we're trying to provide every day. So last night was good to kind of learn about what was going on in other markets. I mean, it's if anybody look, we all have our opinions about other SEC teams and programs, but the way that I'm looking at it is the way that their media is covering it. And I mean, our friends Billy Lucci and Tex Ags has the model. I mean, they have a monster, an absolute beast of a media outlet. Now, they are so close to the program. In fact, their studios are inside of the facility. I mean, like, the relationship that Billy has formed with Texas A&M football, it's almost as if he is on staff. And I mean that with all due respect. Like, not that he is a homer, not that he is this, which, if you listen to him, everybody would say that he would. But if anybody listened to this program and was not an LSU fan, they would say that I am a homer.
French fan with the microphone.
But everybody in their market would be considered. I mean, you put us all around the table, everybody's defending their school without even knowing it. Everybody's just kind of speaking up. But you also have a responsibility to do it objectively. And those are things that you talk about. But I mean, like, Billy Lucci and Tex Ags had a chance to meet the crew last night from Alabama who's doing it. Both of them, they knew what we had going on and was very respective of what we were doing. Is over at the next round. They are Jim Dunaway and Ryan Brown doing a lot of the same work that we're doing. They were in traditional media, decided to take their own route, going all digital, YouTube, social media, and having tremendous success in their hometown. Saban sat down with them yesterday, stopped by with them at their podcast and was able to talk to them. They still have an hour that they do on radio, which is taped, but just the people that are out there doing it, and it's incredible to see the way that this industry is changing right in front of our face. Really, it's happening every single day. People are recognizing the change and the switch, and it's pretty fascinating to be kind of at the forefront of it, and slowly but surely almost turning into a consultant type role for people over here that are wondering, how do you do it, how do you get there, where do you start, where do you how did you take the leap? Just all those types of stuff. So it's cool, man. Today will be awesome as well, because I'm looking forward to hearing what Kirby Smart has to say. Yesterday was headlined by Nick Saban, and Saban talked, he talked about everything, and he didn't run from anything. And I saw Laura Rutledge yesterday morning, and Rutledge had Saban on set of her SEC Now crew, and I told her I thought she did a brilliant job of getting Nick Saban to talk about Jimbo Fisher, because standing in that big room where I believe he talked for like 24 minutes, nobody asked him about it. And then as soon as he walked into the digital media room, some like 22-year-old kid asked him, kind of one of these fresh media faces that have gone into television straight out of school. Grab any questions. Kid grabs a microphone and asks him about, just straight up, what about the Jimbo Fisher deal a couple of weeks? No, the way that Laura Rutledge did, if you saw it yesterday morning, it was so smooth. I mean, it was such a silky smooth way to get him to really kind of emotionally, kind of like open up to it. She was like, "You've answered a lot of questions today. People have asked you about honeydews. People have asked you about defending national championships, but nobody's asked you about Jimbo Fisher." She was like, "And I have to do that." And she said, "But I want to do it a little differently. I'm not going to ask you about what happened a couple of weeks ago. I'm asking about how that will impact the game coming up on October 8th. And you could see that he was kind of like, "Nah, you got me. You know what I mean? I'm here. I'm sitting on your set. The lights are on. We're live. The red light's on. The cameras are rolling. Let me answer this." And his first reaction was, "I wish you guys would have had cameras back in our staff meetings. Those were the best fights." And Rutledge kind of hits him with a, "I do too. You know, like, I wish I would have seen that." And he goes into just this 2-minute delivery of, what that kind of did to him, how he wants to improve himself. If anybody talks about Nick Saban, I look at what they say and I try to improve it. And it was just a great way of getting him to talk about that. But outside of that, and I don't think anybody thought that they were going to get a soundbite from that on him. Yeah, the NIL stuff I thought really kind of dominated his stops. People wanted to know what he thought on how they could improve it, how college football could improve it. And I think it's fair because, to me, he's the most powerful voice. When he talks, people listen within that college football world. And he, for better, for worse, and I know that this may be a statement that is taken and people might beat me up over, but I believe it. I think when he speaks, he's speaking for the best interest of the game. Sure, there is a portion of it that will highlight and make sure that his program is at the front of the line on it. And, look, man, in business, that's how can you argue that? But I do believe that he's got the best interest of the sport in mind when he speaks. And he went into NIL yesterday, and how you've got to improve it from a regulation standpoint and, a leadership standpoint. But he would also follow that up every single time with not letting you forget that Alabama billed $3 million in NIL last season. He must have said it 6-7 times yesterday. That he would not let you get out of any room without reminding you that Alabama had a roster worth $3 million in NIL deals in the first season it was legal. So, I believe that he is going to be the spearhead of creating some type of formation to governing NIL, but he's still out there and in the front of the pack, even though, under the surface, he hates it. And that was the thing that Feinbaum said about him yesterday. And Feinbaum, to me, is a great Saban troll. And I told him that after, after the bite, I was like, "Man, you're incredible at that." You know what I mean? Like, just like he puts his hand in his pockets, he kind of steps away from the microphone, and he just goes in. Like he's just like, a Saban, this guy. Do you like NIL or not? Because it's seemingly like the more he talks, the more I think he does it. He's just trolling the hell out of these people, and not necessarily Saban, just really kind of the Alabama fan base. But there is some truth to it. Like, you can tell as much as he's like, "No, like, I support NIL. I'm with NIL. I want the kids to get the yeah." Like, underneath, he's like, "Yeah, but we got to regulate this stuff, man." But he's also pointing out, and Josh Pate got this out of him. And if you've not seen Pate sit down when Nick said, it's great, man. Give you an idea of the weight that Pate's swinging around the SEC media. All 14 coaches sitting down one-on-one with Pate before they get out of here. That's tough to do. There are a lot of people fighting to do that in our business. And Pate, in the second year he's doing this, sitting down and getting one-on-ones from all 14 of them, and then opening up Saban as much as you've seen in a while. That's where it's coming out, where all these NIL promises that are made in recruiting, re-recruiting guys back to the roster are not being kept. They're just I mean, these kids have been on campus now, some of them 6-7 weeks, some of them since spring as early enrollees. They're looking around like, when do I start to pick up the check? Yeah, well, hey, we'll let you know. Well, hang on. People are like, what? And now staff's phones are starting to ring of, finalists and saying, hang on, I'd have been there if I'd have known that this was going to work out like this. So, I mean, dude, the thing is a mess. It's a mess. I mean, from Saban talking about NIL to Billy Napier today, the story around Billy Napier is what he's going to talk about with NIL because of what Florida has had to deal with over the last couple of weeks. Right? Jaden Rashada was in the forefront of the storylines, headlines. Was it 3 weeks ago when he announced his commitment to the University of Miami? Once he announced that commitment, it came out, allegedly, that Miami was about to pay or set to pay Jaden Rashada $9.5 million to play quarterback at the University of Miami, and that wasn't even the highest offer. Allegedly, the report, there was rumors out there that Florida had offered $11 million to Rashada. And then once after that, a California lawyer came out and said he'll never deal with the Florida Collective again in NIL because of how unorganized they are. Oof. It got so bad where Billy Napier had to pen a letter to the fan base trying to calm them down and letting them know that Florida is prepared and going to be able to take on NIL. Napier's about to go through it today at lunch. I mean, he's opening himself up to the entire SEC media today, fresh off of having to write a letter to the fan base explaining on bring the panic level down. The staff's going to be able to get players. So, I mean, it's permeating it is the dominant topic of SEC media days.
Well, and it's only going to get bigger, right? Whenever Jimbo Fisher takes the stand.
Absolutely. I mean, there is a headliner a day. We were talking about that last night. Brian Kelly on Monday, Nick Saban on Tuesday, Kirby Smart on Wednesday, Jimbo Fisher on Thursday. Sprinkle in a little bit of, Mike Leach, Lane Kiffin. Today somebody like Sam Pittman or Billy Napier. Tomorrow, Josh Heupel from Tennessee. There's a lot of intriguing storylines kind of weaved in there, but you've got a heavyweight every single day that's going to take the podium and give you headlines on something, and most probably it's going to be name, image, and likeness. The first 2 days have been NIL. Kirby Smart, I think, will be asked about. I don't know if you saw the report that Kirby Smart gave to an outlet last night, saying that he thought about stepping down last year at this time. Oh. He thought about resigning because the workload, no family time, just missing out on so many things, the things that haunt coaches. They give you these enormous salaries, these palaces to work in. The rules really don't apply to you, yet the demand is 24-hour work days, 7 days a week. And Kirby Smart said last season it nearly chopped him out of the sport. Well, he was seriously putting in his resignation. So
do you think if they don't win a national championship, he might be out this year? Like now, obviously, he gets to go in.
I think if they don't win a national championship, he doesn't say that.
Oh, okay, yeah. You
know what I mean? Like, right. It's very easy to say now
because I'm not quitting anymore. I've got nowhere to go. Yeah,
absolutely. I could leave now.
Yeah, and nobody would care.
What I want.
Right.
Yeah, I got a lifetime. I mean,
yeah. If you're Kirby Smart and you bail after losing the national championship, both times to Nick Saban, and like you obviously can't get over the hump, and then you just quit. Like that would leave. I mean, that's just bad for your. When you talk legacy talk, like fans would do, that would be terrible for a legacy. But now he gets Georgia the first championship since like the mid '80s. I mean, he can ride. He's probably walking around with his chest pumped out a little bit. Look, I can leave anytime I want, boys. Like y'all need me more than I need you.
Storyline on Georgia, everybody's talking about it. Are they Alabama or are they LSU? LSU has become a cautionary tale for the Southeastern Conference of a team that can be so dominant and then fall completely off the cliff the next season. while I don't think anybody is anticipating Georgia to fall off the cliff, there are people out there that believe 8-5, 9-4 is possible. And, Alabama has gotten to a point where they played the national championship game last season and it was a letdown.
Right.
Right? So, people are asking Kirby, where's his program at? Can you sustain? Because there's so much turnover on his defense. That group, there's no way they can be as dominant as they were last season. Stetson Bennett comes back. It's really kind of the identity of the program is shifting this year, at least to the first part of it. Now, Kirby is recruited at such a high level that you may look up in the second or third game and Georgia's defense is on pace, to be, one of the most dominant in the league and in the country just because of how good of a coach he is on that side of the ball and how high of a level he has recruited at. But, really, the face, look at two of his players that he's bringing today are offensive players. He's bringing linebacker Nolan Smith too, who's a dog. And look, they got a lot of guys on that defense that could break through. That could pop this season and could turn Georgia into a really good group on that side of the ball. But their identity is offense right now, and the storyline for them going into the day is, how do they defend and can they sustain? Can they become a team that wins the national championship, turns over all those pros, and still gets into the college football playoff?
And that's where you get
wins the SEC East.
Yeah, that's where you get the 2019 comparison, right? Because going into 2020, there's no way LSU can sustain that offense. There's no way that they come back in 2020 after what happened in 2019 and do the exact same thing just because of the turnover. You obviously lose an offensive coordinator. Things have changed. Georgia's kind of in a similar boat where, all right, you lose not all of your talent, but you lose a good chunk of the talent that was on defense. And it was so dominant, it's almost impossible to be like, oh, let's just run it back. We're going to do the exact same thing. And so you start looking, this is what happens when you're the champ. People start trying to find places where they can poke holes. They look at Georgia's like, well, defense can't be as good, so let's shift to the offensive side. Like, well, they got Stetson Bennett coming back. Like, that wasn't the strength of their team last year, but now it seems like they have so many playmakers on the offensive end with Tariq Gilbert coming back, the way that they've recruited, but then they lose Cordell Hankton at wide receivers coach. So there's so many, avenues towards you could slip and slide with Georgia that if you're relying on Stetson Bennett, I believe, I would imagine that anybody playing Georgia would take that matchup 10 out of 10 times. It's just a matter of how good is that defense going to be? Can they run it back to be, if they're 3/4 as good, they'll still be in every football game.
Remember, Daily, we're brought to you by Edward Jones. Edward Jones is our financial professional. You can go see Daniel Newman today. Daniel is located in Central Louisiana. Let him help you out with with your finances and answer all of your financial questions. You can get in touch with Daniel. Easiest way to do it is just by emailing him. Daniel.Newman at edwardjones.com. Daniel.Newman at edwardjones.com. If you want the cell phone number, this is a direct line to Newman, 225-261-8262. 225-261-8262 is the phone number. Daniel Newman helping you out with your finances today, answering all your questions. If you have any questions about your 401k, if you have any questions about Social Security, or you're just curious about a couple of investments that you have some concerns about, get in touch with Newman. And we tell you all the time, if you work within the plant industry, if you work with within the industrial sector and you've got questions about your finances, Daniel Newman is a pro. He is an absolute pro when it comes to answering your questions. Every single time I go to his office out on Magnolia Square Drive in Central Louisiana, there is somebody within that industry waiting in the weight room or sitting with him at the table, asking, listening, hearing what Daniel has to say on really managing the finances for that industry. Get in touch with Daniel today. Daniel.Newman at edwardjones.com, 225-261-8262, 225-261-8262. Shout out to our crew back at home, too. Joe Rodriguez, our lead engineer, Lloyd, Stewie, the entire crew, Noah on social media, Jamil and the staff, Bree and everybody in video for keeping this train rolling while we're over here in Atlanta, getting us set up over here. It's been pretty seamless of getting this content to you every single morning and then shooting the content back throughout the day. We'll be doing a lot of the same here on the third day of SEC Media Day that will start again this morning here, 8:05 locally over in Baton Rouge. 9 o'clock here on the Eastern Shoreboard. Arkansas will get going. Sam Pittman will lead off at 9:05 this morning. Georgia will then be the second team that comes in. The local team, 10:30 this morning. Kirby Smart, Stetson Bennett, Cedric Van Pran from Louisiana, and Nolan Smith will be here from the Georgia Bulldogs as the champs will take the podium at 10:30 this morning. Florida, Billy Napier, his first season in Gainesville. He'll be here at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Quarterback Anthony Richardson and linebacker Ventrell Miller will be here with Florida head coach Billy Napier. And then at 2:30 this afternoon, Mark Stoops in Kentucky will be here. Quarterback Will Levis, who came back for his senior season, and offensive line Ken Horsey and DeAndre Square, a linebacker, will all be here from Kentucky. So that'll be day 3 of SEC Media Days. Another good day for Jay Johnson and the crew. Is that right, Lloyd?
Good and
They signed
bad.
a big catcher?
They signed 2 catchers, but you saw the Paulie G news wherever he had obviously announced on Twitter that he was coming back to LSU, but then he gets drafted by, I believe, the Mets, and he got overslotted essentially. So whenever he got drafted, he thought he wasn't going to be able to make the money, like essentially his number that he had put out. It turns out the Mets are willing to compensate him at that same price point. So he has to turn around and go back and say, look, I talked to my family. We decided this was the number. I'm actually going to go and keep myself in the MLB draft, and it's the best thing that I could do. So he's going to actually leave after saying he's going to come back. So we kind of a loss for LSU. Who's going to step in and be the closer. However, he'll be on Mic'd Up tonight from 6 to 8 to kind of explain the situation a little bit from his end, because obviously when you get on social media or you talk anything LSU sports, the LSU fans are quick to jump off the bandwagon if you say you're doing one thing and you do another thing. So LSU fans need to come kind of wipe the slate clean, explain what happened with Mikey. So he'll be on from 6 to 8 tonight. I think we have Sean Ochinko hopping on again. But aside from what we're going to do tonight, where we'll get all of our baseball talk in, LSU did lose a couple guys to the draft. Jack Pineda, a Baylor transfer that was signed to be shortstop. He gets drafted and he ends up going also. And so this is why you saw LSU kind of, I guess, oversign in the portal, where we were like, man, how many guys is Jay Johnson going to take? He was just preparing himself a little bit for what could happen in the attrition that could come from the MLB draft. But then he gets 2 catchers to sign on for LSU, which I think was a little bit of a surprise. All in all, I mean, I guess the biggest pickup, when you say you lose Jack Pineda, you get a guy like Gavin Guidry, who, when the last time we had Jay Johnson on, he was made a public plea essentially for Guidry to stay. He's a Barb kid, Louisiana guy, and Guidry was like, this is the type of player I can build my program around. This is who you need to win in Louisiana, to win national championships. Guidry would be my centerpiece. And he said that on the show. And so I'd imagine Guidry, that probably got back to him. He spurns the Major League Baseball draft, decides to join the Tigers. He'll be absolutely in the mix. And then Griffin Herring, another pitcher that LSU gets. They add another left-handed arm. I think Riley Cooper was the only one that was still on staff that was coming from the left side, so they addressed that need. So, I mean, you might lose one, but you pick up 3. What Jay Johnson's doing on the recruiting end and how he's able to kind of steal some from the draft has been nothing short of, I would say, a massive success for LSU baseball.
So it was the kid's name from last night, the catcher. I'm trying to think of the catcher's name. Was it Brady Neal? Brady Neal.
Hold on, let me see. Yeah, Brady Neal. And then there's another one. That's
Jared
also
Jones?
Chase Shores.
No, that's a pitcher. But Brady Neal and Jared Jones. Those are the 2 guys that he got. And so, I think one of them's also a pitcher. So we'll see what position they want to go with that. But I think it is Brady Neal. That's like a mountain of a man.
He's a stud.
Yeah, he's 6'4", 240 back there. But 2 catchers after essentially LSU had 0. So you saw some of the defensive woes that happened last year, so that need gets addressed. It'll be interesting to see how the lineup shakes up, how many freshmen you see play for LSU going into next year. You have some vets, obviously, that are on the roster, but some of these guys might be too good to ignore, and they're going to have to get some playing time. You'll see that shake out early on in the year, but like I said, Jay Johnson saw the needs that LSU kind of had penciled in, and I feel like he kind of filled those slots. And now you don't really have to. I think they have until August 2nd to decide what they want to do in terms of draft stuff, but LSU assigns a lot of woes or addresses a lot of woes throughout the year, and I think you'll see a team that's pretty much bound for Omaha, or at least that'll be the expectation going into the baseball season.
And you mentioned Jack Pitt, who was the Baylor transfer shortstop. He was a 12th round selection by the Kansas City Royals. It was reported last night, as Lizzie just said there, he will sign. But Carter Young, the other player who they picked up from Vanderbilt, where, look, you looked at his offensive production and it wasn't necessarily there, but his defense, you cannot ignore. He was selected by the Baltimore Orioles in the 17th round. So to give you an idea of why Jay Johnson was really stacking some of those numbers and names in the transfer portal, is because he could probably anticipate, what was on the horizon. So we'll kind of even wait and see what happens with Carter Young. But LSU continuing to take it. When did you say the deadline was?
August 1st.
When will they know it for sure? August 1st? Okay,
yeah.
So just right around the corner. They'll have an idea of what their roster will look like. And as always, if you were looking for the most, I would say the most trustable news for LSU baseball, it's got to be Mic'd Up. Mikey has established a brand here pretty quick within his podcast that they have become the authority of LSU baseball, whether it is sit-downs with new pitching coaches like Wes Johnson, or it is just like a weekly chat with Jay Johnson, where he is so loose and feels so honest in that in that conversation. You got to check out Mic'd Up. That is coming to you Monday and Wednesday, 6 to 8 o'clock, and then on Fridays it originates from Uncle Earl's Bar, 4:30 to 6 o'clock. And remember, you can get over there and check out a happy hour with them. They got a $100 bar tab every Friday over at Uncle Earl's. So the first $100 worth of drinks is on Mic'd Up.
And you got to
so
beat me to it. You got to get
4:30.
there early because,
yeah,
it's first come, first serve.
Has always been a drinker on the job.
Absolutely.
He drinks from 6 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night.
You got to keep your energy up.
So you will have to, you'll have to get to Uncle early on Friday to try and crack into that $100. But we do have $100 pledged to the bar tab for you, compliments of what we got going on over here at FM Digital Media with Mic'd Up. So SEC Media Days from yesterday. Mike Leach, the same feeling we had on Lane Kiffin is the same way I feel about Mike Leach in Mississippi State. The same way I feel about Shane Beamer in South Carolina. I was very impressed with Beamer yesterday. I think that Beamer's one of these guys where he's a great fit at South Carolina. I don't know if you saw the video that South Carolina put out yesterday on Twitter.
I saw it too. It was
great.
It was what a callback.
They're trying, bro.
Yeah,
they are trying.
Let's get some energy in the building.
Like they are whatever we got to do. And look, Beamer said it yesterday. He was like, I remember showing up to this event last year, and it was almost like we were employees of the hotel. I mean, nobody was even like looking at us as they were walking through the hall. I mean, nobody was talking about South Carolina football. Nobody had any expectation for South Carolina football. And just a year on the job, a couple of recruiting wins and some big wins on the field, and people are kind of curious about where Shane Beamer can take this program. But in a world that is dominated, as it is now, in college football by name, image, and likeness. And I know people don't want to hear this because, how many times have we talked? Every time I come to this show, you're talking NIL. Well, being down at SEC Media Days, we've been on the nose of the topic of the sport. That is that's the topic du jour down here at SEC Media Days is NIL. How it is just either crippling the sport or how it is going to progress the sport to the next level of wherever it's heading. And the teams, just like Saban said yesterday, it is going to separate and continue to divide the haves and the have-nots. And he's not really worried about it because Alabama's a have. I mean, how many times did he say up there in that big room, we're a have. We're a have. I mean, we're a have. I'm not worried about it. We're a have. I mean, I'm looking out for the rest of college football. But a school like South Carolina, a school like Mississippi State, we'll hear from Kentucky today. I don't know where your seat at the table really is. I don't even know if you're at the adult table anymore. Yeah, I don't even know where you would sit or provide any type of value to new age college football. It's
what we talked
I
about
hear
a little
what they're
bit
saying.
with Lane Kiffin. Like, that's where kind of he was. You could see it on his face where he's like, I don't know where we go in the age of name, image, and likeness. And that's somebody that's young and gets it, and he understands the game, and he's trying to kind of read the room about, I don't think we fit in here. Like, I don't think we can compete no matter what we do. And I'm sure Shane Beamer, same kind of, young, up-and-coming, gets it, but he's probably looking around going, I could have walked through SEC Media Days last year, and nobody would have asked me a question. Like, I could have slunk in here, pretended like I'm not a coach, and nobody would have noticed. This year, he's trying to put some social media out there, trying to be in the game. But what do you do? Like, Mike Leach doesn't give a shit about NIL. Like, that's just not his style. So you have to worry about where your coach sits on it. Kentucky's going to try to figure it out because Stoops, I guess, cut from a coaching family. So he understands that you need players to win. But like you said, where do we fit in? Like, there's not enough seats.
Yeah. No, and there's just from schools like South Carolina, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Kentucky today, there's not the selection of money that you need to support something this big. I mean, where do you think every dollar in Kentucky is going from boosters in NIL?
Basketball.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, they just paid Oscar Tshiebwe $3 million to come back for his senior season. The guy, I mean, he's going to take a pay cut, seriously, next season to go to the NBA. I mean, like, there's not Will Levis isn't making that money, the quarterback who came back for his senior season. I mean, it's where, how can you compete with a school like Alabama or Texas A&M or Texas or like LSU, like Brian Kelly said, who is pledging resources and making sure that their school is competitive within NIL. So when the conversation comes up about how you get from this level to the next level and dealing with NIL, that, you can be competitive. Schools like Ole Miss, schools like Mississippi State, schools like Kentucky, even Arkansas showing up today. I mean, Pittman and the Hogs, they can play ball. Really. I mean, there's not an NIL structure that they can't keep up with when you just talk about three of their boosters. Jerry Jones, the owners of Tyson Chicken, and the Waltons, who own Walmart, are all Arkansas donors.
Stewie's taking Walmart for all they're worth. We don't have to worry about them anymore. Be Stewie Mart.
Stewie might become the biggest donor in LSU football. NIL player.
Hey, let me keep that Jeep. But where are you on what happens with Arkansas? Obviously, I don't think that you haven't heard a lot of NIL talk from Arkansas, and you know that Jerry Jones loves the program. He lets them play in the Death Star every year, or in Jerry's World every year.
Death Star.
That's in Vegas. But he lets him play in Jerry's World every year. His son is on the team. Like, he obviously has interest, but I don't know if you've heard anything.
His grandson's on the team.
But he almost got to play.
I think he did play.
I think he played a little quarterback. But
yeah.
You see the interest there, but I haven't seen or heard anything from Arkansas where it's like, oh my God, Arkansas is a major player. I don't know if we'll find out today, but you'd have to imagine Jerry Jones is in the game.
But here's what's happening at Arkansas, and you're right. You don't hear these big splashes in recruiting, but what Arkansas is doing and the way that they're building their team is they're building it the right way. They're building it in the trenches. They've got offensive and defensive line in Arkansas that is really going to set the pace for their program, and they're going to start to hit on some of these high skill level recruits that you got to get to bust the game open. I mean, look, KJ Jefferson, man, is going to be a player coming in here. I mean, he's a big storyline around him going into today on just the expectation for him going into another season as a starter. But you can't overlook Arkansas anymore. That's the deal. Like, you can't, and LSU was the worst at that, of just kind of writing that game off.
Not going to lose to Casey Dick.
You cannot do that because of their line of scrimmage, the way that they play the line of scrimmage. I just think that, LSU started to become dominant in the early 2000s when they started to get defensive linemen. That's where it started with Marcus Spears, Chad Lavallee, Marquise Hill, guys like Kyle Williams, guys like that were coming in early were really the pace setters for LSU football of being able to get Glenn Dorsey and Claude Roten and Drake Nevis and Sam Montgomery and all these guys that came through here over the next 15, 20 years that really established the dominance of LSU football. First things first, you had to control the line of scrimmage. You had to be able to compete on the offensive and defensive line, and Arkansas is doing that. If you heard Brian Kelly talk about what the positive traits about Brad Davis was, one of the first things he said was that he came from Sam Pittman.
That's what I was going to say. Is they're so confident what they do on the offensive and on the offensive line of scrimmage and Sam Pittman and his job that they kind of let Brad Davis walk. There really wasn't a lot of competition to keep him. It felt like Brad Davis was pretty much able to get scooped up in the middle of the year from LSU, and you're like, oh, they just let their offensive line coach walk, and they didn't really miss a beat.
Yeah.
But I do feel a lot of the same, if I'm Arkansas and you saw what just played out with Ed Orgeron and LSU, it felt like they based kind of their hire off of the success of LSU, where you get a guy that may not have an expertise on either side of the ball, but he's very good recruiter and he can focus on one thing. Now, if Sam Pittman doesn't have the same issues that Ed Orgeron, it could work. But if I'm going into this year as an Arkansas fan, I see that as a cautionary tale what happened to Baton Rouge.
No, I definitely think that they do. But last season, I think he passed the test in that, right? Where, Orgeron was a failure. I think Sam Pittman is showing you that this model can be successful in the sense of he has a primary position that he coaches. And I think that, whether you want to argue back and forth on who's better of a defensive line coach, Ed Orgeron, or an offensive line coach, Sam Pittman, I don't know. Maybe, we're kind of splitting hairs there. But when it comes down to running a program, it's shown here in the first 2 years for Pittman that he's a little more organized and a little bit more pays attention to detail than Orgeron did. They're both rah-rah guys. He does the yes sir thing. He's got a big personality, but
right.
I think that Pittman is doing it the right way. I really do. I believe in Sam. I think that Sam Pittman has made Arkansas a player of, the caliber that you just can't overlook. You got to take Arkansas serious with Sam Pittman, because if you don't win the line of scrimmage or you can't compete with the line of scrimmage, he's going to kick your ass. Arkansas could blow you out if you don't respect how they play.
Right.
What was it, 2 years? His first year, they were running for 200 yards a game. They were just bullying people.
But my thing is, my only pushback with this would be, like you said, when you build an Ed Orgeron kind of style team, wherever he has a very specific niche on what he coaches, and you start winning games, you start being on notice. Kendall Briles is their offensive coordinator. Somebody's going to come snatch him up.
Barry Odom's
their defensive coordinator.
I'm surprised he's still there.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So he's going to have to, Sam Pittman's going to have to rebuild almost every 2 or 3 years his coaching staff. And when you get that kind of turnover, you saw what happened. LSU was grasping at straws trying to replace people, and because you kind of get out of your depth where I don't know who I'm supposed to hire. I'm leaning on other people to tell me who to get. And that's where it comes down to how efficiently can Sam Pittman manage this thing. Because if he does it how Ed O did it, you're in trouble where, I gave him the job over the phone. I didn't even meet with him. And it's like, y'all told me to hire him, so I hired him. So it becomes a lot of you're relying on the administration and other people as opposed to your head coach.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that Sam Pittman has to look at Ed Orgeron as the just guiding light of cautionary tale of what not to do. And not to say that he has the demons
right
that Orgeron had off the field. I think he's got all of that buttoned up, zipped up. But just the management of the program. Look, there's a lot of talk about LSU up here about that. LSU's a cautionary tale for a ton of people, whether it be head coaches to compare to Ed Orgeron or whether it be program success from 19 to 20 to 21. People look at LSU and ask. That's what people are asking about Georgia today.
Right.
Are they Alabama or are they LSU? Can they sustain or are they going to fall off? That's really kind of the story. Sam Pittman, when he shows up this morning, is he Ed Orgeron? There's a lot of comparison to what LSU has done the past couple of years. All right, we'll get to some of your comments. I'm going to get out of here in a couple of minutes here and go check out what Sam Pittman has to say. He'll be the first one off the podium here, on the podium here this morning. And we'll be sending back a lot of content for you like yesterday. Just kind of a couple of chats in the halls, some quick, easy chats with some media members down here. William Ivy, hashtag Ask Jordy. You identified yourself in the press conference as being from WAFB. Why didn't you say the Jordy Culotta Show? Well, I'm on WAFB's credential.
I know.
And actually, when I asked that question, I was in the TV room, so I didn't want to, kind of bring attention to a podcaster.
YouTube counts as TV. YouTube TV.
In the room. That's right. Jeff and Jordy, top 18 picks in the NBA this year, all got $3 million. So Tshiebwe will not lose money going pro. You get the point, though. All right, we'll take some calls, or excuse me, we'll take some takes here. I guess I have the phone.
Hey,
you can call me.
Yeah, if you want to check the voicemail.
225-229-7741. Rove Camara, 229-7741 is the phone number. Let's see if we got any. We got one from last Wednesday here, Lizzie. Would that count? 9:44 a.m.
Absolutely.
Maybe this might be a new one.
Jordy, this is Clinton Phillips from Shell Beach, Louisiana. I got a question for you. I know Caleb Jackson was number one running back on Alabama's recruiting
I think
board.
this was from last week.
As far as
Is this from last week?
Mm-hmm.
do you think anyway last year?
I'm deleting. Have a take, don't suck. Give me a call, 225-229-7741. We'll answer your questions here live before we head back downstairs to SEC Media Days.
What is your
live from Atlanta?
What is your strategy with these interviews? Are you bombarding these people, or are you letting them know beforehand when they walk out? Because it's very TMZ Sports, which is good on you, because I guess do they expect it? I guess is what I'm asking. We were talking about it yesterday at the Caesars
there's a little
meeting.
expectation.
Yeah.
There is a little expectation, but for somebody like Feinbaum,
he's waiting in the wings for that.
Absolutely, man.
The best,
but Lane Kiffin, I was like, you mind?
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going up there going, hey, all right, question real quick. It's like, Jesus.
Right.
The best
recording.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you're live.
You're live. Actually, we're on YouTube right now. The best one that happened yesterday was the Mike Leach, where the guy makes one of the staffers take his picture with him.
How about this guy?
He didn't know who to give the camera to. He's like, you with the tie. This guy was like,
everybody goes head down, like head to the phone. Can somebody take a picture? Everybody's Christ, man. Who is this guy? Mouth breather.
This guy's in a three-piece suit with his lanyard on, clearly important, and he's like, here, gives him the camera with the lanyard on it.
That was security.
Yeah.
If you when he pulls his jacket back, he's got a badge.
He's like, I guess get this guy out of here. This is essentially me doing my job.
We got a text message coming in. The way that BK talked about Nuss, do you think that he plays against Florida State? Like we had this conversation. I think he does. I think the more that we talk it out, the more that I believe that Nussmeier could be the first quarterback to start the season. I think that it's not out of the realm of possibility that Nussmeier could be the day one starter. But I think that, look, it's going to be really good competition in camp. I think when it all shakes out, though, I think that, QB1 is going to be Nuss. Just where I am. Have a take, don't suck. 225-229-7741. 225-227-7741. Jeff Lee, Shane Beamer seems like a great football coach. I agree, Jeff. Very impressive. I was trying to ask around last night, would anybody be surprised 3 to 5 years from now, would people be surprised to see him on a big-time job?
Not at all.
A Florida, a Texas A&M, somewhere, down the line where that's a big player in these, in today's college football. If he would be, I think he will too. And then after watching and listening to him just kind of work the room, talk football, talk recruiting, he's so embracive to everything that is 2022's version of the sport.
Right.
Even the guys that are adapting are still, there's still you heard Saban yesterday. I mean, he's still prickly on some stuff.
I mean, he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. Like, Saban's like, he knows he has to do the NIL thing, but you can tell, like, when he's either, if he's talking about Texas A&M, he hates it, but when it's Alabama's turn, he's like, look, we gave away $3 million last year. What do you want from us? We're in the NIL game. It's just so interesting how he's clearly, like, he's such a politician. He's pitching it one way, and then he's giving his honest thoughts on it when he's talking about A&M. Like, it burns him up, but if he's the old curmudgeon, then Alabama's going to lose a step eventually because, I mean, part of the Alabama lore is, like, I'm going to get paid to play here, right? Did you see what he said about Eli Ricks?
Yeah.
Not surprising.
Yeah, he's got I mean, well, not really.
That's what I'm saying. If you've been around it.
I mean, if you know, you know.
Right.
I mean, like, Eli Ricks, he don't know the Bama way, nor do I believe that he will adapt to the Bama way.
Yeah, nor will he ever get the Bama way.
No way, man. I think that Saban and Bama knew that going in. Got a call. Hold tight. Have a take. Don't suck. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Jeff and Kenner, man.
All right, Jeff. What's up, man?
Hey, I'm going to ask Jordy a couple of questions.
Hit me.
Oh, I'm on.
This is live.
Doing, brother?
Good, man. We're live.
Hey, I got a question. So far, from what you've seen and heard there at Media Day, offensively and defensively, what would you say your top two on each side are going to be breakout stars this year outside of the givens, the Booty and Mason Smiths?
All right. Any other questions?
No, that's it, bro.
All right, bro. I appreciate it, Jeff.
All right.
So I've said this on every show. I think that the breakout star on offense is going to be John Emery. I think that John Emery is about to have an enormous season. I think that he's going to be the centerpiece of the offense, and I think that his head's right. He's in a great space. I think that he's in a place that he's ready to go, and I think that John Emery is going to have an enormous senior season, barring anything from a health standpoint that doesn't snap up and get him. If he can stay healthy, to me, I believe that he will have a great senior season. And then on defense, for me, it's Mike Jones Jr. I just talking to him a little bit earlier this week, getting to know him a little bit in the offseason, and knowing the opportunity that he has in front of him. And we forget, people say that he was looked over last year. He was all the way up until the Alabama game. Then they put him on the field, and the defense totally changed, and he closed the season on a real high. He's playing with a lot of confidence coming off of last year. He had his confidence, beat around a little bit, but he was able to find it at the last part of the season and make it work and really kind of have things pointed in a positive direction coming back for this year. And if you saw him earlier this week or you listened to him earlier this week, we all know he's very impressive in front of a microphone, but he's playing, or he's approaching with a certain calm to him that really, you get the sense that he's in a good spot, man. He's in a good spot. I really think that he has a chance to really be a bust out player.
And I think when he came into the show, and we asked him a little bit about the defense and what's changed, and he's like, I've been calling every play. I'm lining everyone up. Like, he's putting a lot of what that defense is going to do on his own shoulders. And if you're an LSU fan, that should probably scare you, considering what happened under the Bo Pelini staff when you saw the communication going all the way up until the snap, and then they weren't ready to line up. If Mike Jones is going to take that on himself, he has to. That's a big undertaking for an LSU middle linebacker if you're going to communicate with all levels of the defense and which is essentially the spread era where people are trying to go fast, you're trying to communicate. Like, I don't know if there's a better man suited for the job, because Mike Jones, as you said, and as you've seen, is an awesome communicator. He clearly knows. He's a quick thinker. He's good on his feet. But that's just a massive undertaking for what's essentially feels like a first-year player. After he's got half a year under his belt, another new scheme that he has to learn with all new faces around him. It'll be interesting to see how much they're able to get on the same page before week one.
G. McGee Z says Jay Ward. Look, I think Jay Ward's busted out. I think Jay Ward's a big-time player. I really think people know about him, especially on, other teams, other conferences. Other teams in the conference. People know about Jay Ward. Text out of the 318 asks, at work, can't call. Does Micah Baskerville depth chart status surprise you? He's looking like third string. Really? Look, Micah Baskerville has been a player that when he has available, he's been good. There's been some circumstances, there's some games that, you kind of wonder where he is. But when he's on the field, he's usually productive. He hadn't been able to get on the field. Whether it's off the field stuff, whether it's injury, he's just not consistently been able to stay on the field for LSU. But when he's there, he's a player. So if he can be
available,
if he can be available, yeah, right. If he can be available, it will. He'll be fine. I really think that if he's available, he'll play. But the problem is that he's unreliable, and it seems like Greg Penn's a player too.
Yeah, that's a lot of that's coming
Penn.
in the chat, and I think that's who they mentioned. Wasn't it? I think it was Mike Jones that mentioned Greg Penn as like, boys, we got a player. Like he was saying, like we asked him about breakout players. It's like kind of the same question, and he's like, Greg Penn's going to be a dog for us. So good to know that they've got some.
He had a great spring.
Yeah. Did he play in the bowl game?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that was when people got
played a little bit last year.
Yeah, but that was when you got like your first dose of him. Yeah, go ahead.
Text coming in from the 256. This is Cordell. Do you think Saban needs to avoid the NIL questions now? And he also said Greg Penn for a dark horse breakout player. I think Saban's probably said enough on NIL. I think that people know how he feels, and that the more that he talks about it now is just going to probably shed it into a negative light for him. So I would probably stay away from it moving forward because of spoken he's been up to this point, and people get it. I think people understand how he feels. A text from the 337. Out of all the quarterbacks, say is the quarterback who could shake season's expectations up this year, I would say that would probably be Jaden Daniels. I just don't know a lot about Jaden Daniels. A little bit of his film at Arizona State. I know he brings a ton of experience onto campus, which, you can never replace, or you could never recreate that. So I would say Jaden would be candidate as the dark horse there. Remember, Cajun Ready Mix Concrete brings you the Jordy Culotta Show. CajunRMC.com. No project too big, too small for our friends over at Cajun Ready Mix Concrete. Whether it is residential, municipal, or government related, they can help you out today. Or if you just need to repair a little portion of your driveway, Cajun Ready Mix can help you. Or if you need a new parking lot at your corporate headquarters, Cajun Ready Mix can help you out on that. Get in touch with them today. CajunRMC.com. CajunRMC.com. It's about an hour and 10 minutes here to lead us off on the third day of SEC Media Day. Sam Pittman was just introduced by Greg Sankey into the main room. I'm going to walk downstairs and start to take in a little bit of Arkansas and send back content to Noah and the crew. 10:30 this morning. Looking forward to seeing the champs as Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs will be at the College Football Hall of Fame. We'll talk a little bit to Ced Van Pran from New Orleans. We'll ask him about why it wasn't LSU and why it was Georgia. And more. So hopefully you will be with us throughout the day. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page if you have not already done so. Hit that subscription button, the like and share button, and comment as we appreciate your interaction. William Ivey, before we get out of here, hashtag Ask Jordy. All the local experts are equally split on who'll be the starting quarterback. Every expert has inside sources. How can it still be so evenly split between all three guys? I don't think it is. I think I'm confident for what I tell you here every day. I'm confident into the people that I talk to. I'm confident in the sources that I get the information from. I feel like Garrett Nussmeier is going to be the starting quarterback on this team. Take it for what it's worth. Have a great Wednesday. We'll be with you throughout the day. Make sure to hit that like button, share button, comment button.
And the last one, Jordy, before you go, did they pronounce it orgy? We know for
It's orgy.
It's orgy.
It's absolutely orgy.
Excellent.
I was actually going to bombard him yesterday, and I was going to get a name pronunciation on camera, but I thought it was just too bold of a play. 5-6 years ago, I'd have done it, Lloyd. I'm getting too modest in my old age.
You should have brought me.
Yeah.
Or could have
This
said
is
no.
a crew trip next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a crew trip next year, and this event moves to Nashville.
No, but that's why we got to go. You might lose me in Nashville.
Absolutely.
I'll be there for a night.
Absolutely. I mean, I may get you all credentialed, and I'll just see you on Friday at the airport.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe where this pass got me. Go to Santa's.
All right, homies, I'll be back in touch, y'all.
All right, brother. Later.
All right, see y'all.
And we're going to sign off as well. Remember, we have mic'd up tonight from 6 to 8. We will have Pauly Gervais, the newly drafted former Tiger. As you saw, he committed to coming back his senior year. Will now keep his name in the Major League Draft. I guess take his talents to the Major League Draft. I believe it was the Mets that took him. I'm not sure. I'm not looking it up. But we will find out tonight when he comes on the show. I think it should be a video call or in studio. I'm not sure. Sean Ochinko will also be in. And I think there's one more guest we have lined up but not confirmed, so I won't say it. But remember, Mic'd Up, 6 to 8 on the Mic'd Up YouTube channel. Go like, subscribe, do all the same things over there. Should be some good content coming out. You all have a good day. Tomorrow's Thursday, last day at SEC Media Days. And Jordan will be back in the saddle on Friday. Katie, I have no idea what she'll be doing. Come back. Place is clean.